They are fast and invisible.
This is one of the best builds against the new Predator strain of Terminids. They are fast, extremely aggressive, and much more cunning than their regular counterparts, often flanking you en masse to breathe down your neck constantly. If that wasn't enough, they have the ability to cloak, which makes them incredibly scary. To overcome these terrifying and threatening additions to the Terminid roster, we need to lean into mobility and CC as much as possible, whilst keeping our eyes open to how we deal with the other usual threats, such as Bile Titans, Impalers, Chargers, Nests, and all that good stuff. In terms of CC and stun, we'll talk about the weapons and whatnot, and I'll also drop a bonus tip at the end of the video for newer players on how to use our primary weapon most effectively. But first, let's dive into the red stratagems. The first slot will come as no surprise. It's the 500 kg for all the obvious reasons. It's a great reset. It clears situations when you're in a panic. It can delete Chargers, Biles, Impalers. Absolute no-brainer, folks. The second red stratagem that I've been taking is a bit of a flex slot, and I've found myself switching between the Gatling Barrage, Orbital Gas, or Precision Strike. The reason for this is all three have a lower cooldown than a lot of the other picks that we could take here, and the way bug missions on this planet feel, we certainly want as much uptime as possible. The Gatling Barrage is a really nice pick here because when we use it in tandem with things like the gas or the stun grenade, more on that later, it does an excellent job of shutting down groups of these new variants very effectively. You can also preempt the movement and shut their paths down or choke points, and of course chucking it onto a packed bug breach also works really well here. Speaking of shutting the Terminids down, the gas barrage is also an excellent choice of stratagem as it offers us a large AoE CC with a very low cooldown. We were playing this in a group of 4 yesterday, and we were able to really dominate and keep the masses of these scary bugs in our pocket and locked down, open to be cleared out effectively. Finally, the Precision Strike is a good pick if your group are lacking in the ability to deal with things like Biles and Impalers. Once you get accurate with this thing, it's effectively a delete button and puts you in a really nice role to support your fellow Helldivers in a pinch. Moving on to the blue stratagems, and the front runner here for me has got to be the Gas Dog Backpack. This thing is absolutely cracked since its buff, and its usefulness has really come into its own since these new Predators entered the fold. It constantly CCs enemies, and it cannot be understated how much confusing the enemies increases your survivability, folks. This is really the icing on the cake with this build, and as we go over our final picks such as the armor and primary weapons in a moment, you'll see why. But this Gas Dog is just so intelligent now. It picks the right targets, it feels like, a lot of the time, and it is very efficient and economical, for want of a better phrase, when you're in the middle of absolute carnage. And I can't count the amount of times yesterday playing against these new Predator strains where this Gas Dog really did either save my bacon or one of my fellow Helldivers. Folks, if you haven't tried this yet, make sure you include this in your loadout. It absolutely slaps. I will also add in that you can use the Laser Dog. I do find that sometimes it's just nice to change things up, and the Laser Dog does do work, and you can see in some of the footage here that it is zapping the bugs into oblivion, and that's not a surprise. It is very effective. Make sure you grab that one, folks. Before we go into the primary weapon, the final stratagem pick will come as no surprise. It's everybody's favorite cheese cannon, the Queso, the Quasar cannon, for all the obvious reasons. Infinite ammo, the ability to one-shot Bile Titans, Chargers, and Impalers, especially when you get them with those cheeky little armpit shots. This just allows you to take the pressure off whenever there's a lot of heavies on the field, and it's a really solid pick in my opinion. It works fantastically well when you're in a group of 4 and you're in communication and you just call out Bile Titan, someone use a Quasar, pop, it's dead. Synchronize this, pick your targets, and you will have a really easy time using this in this loadout, folks. Before we get into the other choices, it would be incredibly helpful if you could like the video if you're finding it useful and enjoyable. It really helps push the video out there, and having taken a small break from Helldivers 2, this would be super appreciated. Of course, if you're also enjoying the video, please do sub to the channel to keep informed. There's also the Phase Shift Community Discord, which you can join to keep up to date with all things PSC and find groups for a range of games that we cover here, such as Helldivers, Space Marine 2, and other co-op games. Now, back back to the video. Now, our primary weapon of choice, in case you haven't already guessed, is my overall favourite weapon in the game, the Blitzer. Once again, the stagger and the stun in combination with the gas dog and or the gas or stun grenades are far too good to pass up on when we're fighting this particular variant of Terminid. And if you're still learning the ropes in Helldivers 2, I will drop a little bonus tip at the end of this video for how to use the Blitzer most effectively. It's a great one if you're still learning the ropes, folks. In terms of a secondary, you can either take the ultimatum, because let's be honest, this thing is absolutely outrageous. Having a pocket nuke is never a bad thing when we're on the battlefield, and it can one-shot anything if you get a direct hit on it. No brainer, folks. Or perhaps you'd maybe rather get stuck into nest clearing, and if that is the case, then I would take the grenade pistol. This is a really solid choice here, and it's also great if you don't yet have the ultimatum unlocked because you haven't got the war bond that it's in yet. I'll also say this is really good when you're fighting bile spewers. I just find having this in my pocket to switch to often helps me out when I'm getting overwhelmed by them, so that's something to bear in mind. Stun or gas grenades are incredibly strong for this new variant of enemies as they offer us even more CC options, but I would say that the gas grenade is the better choice here because you can close bug holes with these, but your mileage may vary depending on what you have chosen in the other slots, folks. In terms of the armor choices, we're going for either light or medium armor with the medic passive to give the 6 stims and the longer stim effect.
I feel like the medic passive is really coming into its own here. That is super helpful in this situation, not gonna lie.
I personally prefer light armor, but you've got to be confident with your movement against these bugs. They are absolutely terrifying, and if you're not, the medium may be a little more valuable to you, but I just prefer that faster movement speed, folks. Now for a bonus tip for the Blitzer, and this is an extract from an older video I made when the Blitzer first got its buff that brought it to its dominance that we see today. Check it out. This next tip, though, is perhaps one of the most game-changing things I learned during my playtesting of this build, and I can't take credit for it, folks. I actually learnt this during a recent live stream where Phaseshift community member Jalon and Crimson advised me not to right-click an ADS when using the Blitzer, and this would take it to the next level. Curious, I took this into some solo runs to test, and oh my word, they were not wrong, folks. By not ADSing the Blitzer, it appears to widen the spread, encouraging it to connect with enemies in a wider arc as opposed to a more focused small frontal cone. What it has revealed is that you can choose between focusing your shots in specific areas of a horde or becoming much more general in your cover of it. In most situations, I would advise using the non-ADS technique, as this is the much more fruitful choice when keeping space between you and your enemies, and it does appear to do more work against larger volumes of chaff much more quickly. Check out this next video, it's got you covered. Take care of yourselves, keep having fun, come check out a stream on YouTube or Twitch, and I'll see you in the next one.